You can't put all your eggs in one basket because if that one basket falls, all your eggs are broken. And that's true when it comes to investments as well. You cannot invest only in South Africa because if something goes wrong in South Africa, you have lost everything. So in today's episode of the Student Investor Podcast with Ivyn Sambo, we're looking into why you should look into offshore investment. And we're looking into what are the benefits of offshore investment, the disadvantages of offshore investment, where can you start to invest offshore, as well into how much must you put into your offshore investment portfolio. As well, guys, by the end of the episode, I'll give you guys my top 3 New York stock market listed companies that I love buying shares into every single month inside the Shift Global app. So, guys, without wasting any time, let's get into this episode.
Cheap. A dirty word, right? Well, let's think about that. Right now, you can get the cheapest Forex rate around on the Shift app. Dollars, pounds, euros, you won't find cheaper anywhere else. And with that cheap Forex, you can enjoy more of the things you travel for. Or you can take it and buy shares in the world's best companies, all on the Shift app. Or if you, like so many people out there, are investing in foreign currency, you can, cheaper than anywhere else. So if cheap gets you more of life's best things, it's not such a dirty word after all. Get the cheapest Forex rate around. Download the Shift app now. Shift operates under the FSP license of Standard Bank.
Welcome to the Student Investor Podcast with Ivyn Sambo, the podcast that focuses on starting a conversation about money, investing, growing your career, and being a young person in South Africa. Our goal is to simplify the conversation so that we can all learn and grow as young people in South Africa. Hello, future millionaires and billionaires. Welcome to the episode of the Student Investor Podcast with Ivyn Sambo. Today's episode, guys, as I said in the intro, we're looking into we're looking into offshore investments. Why, as a beginner investor, should you look into offshore investments as you start building up the world for you? As well, guys, I have a little bit of a flu, so forgive the way my voice sounds today. I am struggling with a little bit of a flu, so please forgive me for that. And also, guys, thank you so much for the love you've been showing to this podcast. I truly appreciate it. And for 9 weeks in a row, guys, we have been sitting in the top 10 business and investment podcast on Apple Podcasts, mean that you guys are showing us so much love. As well, guys, I am seeing your messages, I am seeing your feedback that you're sending through my website, which is www.ivynsambo.co.za, and I appreciate the love. And I know that we are now growing. Our people in Namibia are loving the podcast, our people in Zimbabwe are loving the podcast, as well as Eswatini, and there's a lot of love from South Africa as well. So let's set the scene for today's episode. We are talking about offshore investment. What exactly is offshore investment? The simplest definition of offshore investment, guys, can be investing in a country outside of the one that you come from or live in. For example, investing your money into the New York stock market in America. That is offshore investment. You are investing into an offshore country or a country outside of the one that you reside and have citizen in, basically. So why is it important to invest offshore? I'm going to give you reasons why offshore investment is important, mostly for us as retail investors. The first reason, I think is the primary reason, is to diversify your portfolio. Because as a retail investor or as a beginner investor, you need to have a level of protection for your investments so that you can be able to see growth. And some of those protections, diversify it and take it into other countries. Meaning you need to have investment into asset classes that are in Australia, that are in the UK, that are in America, China, Russia, whatever the case may be. So investing offshore is a huge benefit in terms of diversifying your portfolio, that if something goes wrong in South Africa, you are protected in other countries. That's the first reason why you should look into offshore investment. The second reason why you should look into offshore investment is that there's higher growth and more opportunities in any other country outside of South Africa. Because remember, guys, South Africa counts as 1% of the world market, meaning there's 99.9% of the world market that you are not exposed into because you're only busy buying shares or buying asset classes that are only in South Africa. When you go offshore, you're exploring 99% of the world economy. So it means number two, the reason why you are going offshore is to get higher growth, at the same time get more opportunities and investing into a broader market. And the third reason why offshore investment is so important for us as retail investors is to get the currency benefit, right? Because we know that the vulnerability of the South African rand basically is linked to the fact that South Africa is an emerging market, and our rand is by result linked to the commodity cycle, meaning that if a specific commodity is struggling, the rand will struggle because our rand mostly is linked to the general commodity cycle. But with other countries out there who are more developed, more stable, their currency is not linked to the commodity cycle, so they won't be that much impacted by the commodity cycle as opposed to South Africa. I'm not saying they're not impacted at all, but I'm saying they're not that much impacted as opposed to South Africa. That's the third reason why looking into offshore investments is something that we need to start looking into as retail investors or beginner investor. So let's look at the disadvantages, right? Because everything that has a good must have a bad. It's a way of life. So one of the first disadvantage when it comes to investing offshore is the tax implication of it. And there's no general answer that you can give. And guys, you know me, I'm not a tax expert, but what I would say is that before going offshore, please ensure you understand the tax implication that comes with a specific country you're going into, or that comes with you as a retail investor going offshore, because there's capital gain tax that you will have to pay from the money you're investing offshore. And also you need to be aware of double taxation as well. I know South Africa has a lot of agreement with a lot of countries throughout the world to try to reduce double taxation, but also do your own research. Understand, if I'm going to invest my money into China, is there double taxation there? If I'm going to go to Siberia, for example, is there double taxation there? So that's something as well that you need to be aware of as a beginner investor before investing. But I am aware that South Africa has a lot of agreements with a lot of countries to reduce and limit double taxation. So I don't think it's that much of an impact, but it's always wise to ensure that you are safe. But guys, if you invest into the New York stock market, the UK market, the Australian market, and as well as the European market, there's no double taxation there, unless one of you has a million to go to Siberia or Chile or Argentina. I don't know, you decide. So let's get into the second disadvantage that comes with offshore investment, and I think this one is researching a country and the asset class inside that country that you want to invest into. As a beginner investor, it's going to be a little bit hard to fully do research on companies or any asset class that are in these offshore countries, because you don't have the contextual understanding of that country and the way that business operates in that country, because you only be stuck in just reading what the internet tells you without even fully understanding some of the products that this business or whatever this country has. Because at the end of the day, when you invest into the GSE, you invest into, for example, ShopRite, you know ShopRite. It's not just going to read and research ShopRite, but you see ShopRite and you contextualize what you're reading. So when you invest in offshore countries, you don't have that ability to contextualize your research, understand it in a broader sense the way you would have done in South Africa. So that's one of the disadvantages that you will have when investing offshore. The third disadvantage is the ability of these foreign offshore countries, because The Russia and Ukraine war happened out of nowhere. No one expected it. COVID-19 happened out of nowhere. There'll be a lot of things that can happen that can make a country that you're investing into, or asset class that in a specific country that you're investing into, be unstable out of nowhere. So that's the other disadvantage. But do remember, guys, all investment comes with a level of risk. So you must be aware of those risks that you are investing into. So let's take a quick ad break and come back, and we'll talk about how exactly can you start investing offshore. As well, guys, we'll talk about how much of your portfolio can be offshore, as well as my top 3 offshore companies I'm investing into inside the Shift Global app.
Cheap. A dirty word, right? Well, let's think about that. Right now, you can get the cheapest forex rate around on the Shift app. Dollars, pounds, euros, you won't find cheaper anywhere else. And with that cheap forex, you can enjoy more of the things you travel for. Or you can take it and buy shares in the world's best companies, all on the Shift app. Or if you, like so many people out there, are investing in foreign currency, you can, cheaper than anywhere else. So if cheap gets you more of life's best things, it's not such a dirty word after all. Get the cheapest forex rate around. Download the Shift app now. Shift operates under the FSP license of Standard Bank.
So how do you start investing offshore? For myself, when I started investing, the first thing I had to do to go offshore was to use ETFs. I have an episode in my podcast where I talked about what are ETF, exchange traded funds. I used to use them to invest international, and I used the ones which are listed in the GSE, for example, like the Nasdaq, the S&P 500, and some of the others which were tracking China, some were tracking European countries or European market to be specific. So I used to use ETF to start investing offshore, and as time goes on, I wanted to be directly investing to offshore companies and buying those specific companies. And now I'm using the Shift Global app to invest into offshore countries, and I'm buying mostly into the New York stock market using the Shift Global app. And that's how I started investing. I know there are some other alternative ways that you can do it. So now the big question is, how much of your portfolio should be offshore? There's no specific answer to this question, but one of the general understanding that a lot of people agree on, a lot of experts agree on, is that 30% of your portfolio should be offshore. So if you're investing 100 Rand per month, 30 Rand must go offshore. Whether you're putting in the New York stock market or you're putting it in whatever you feel that works for you, the general understanding is that 30% of your investment should be offshore. And we do understand that 30% of your investment should be offshore is not applicable to everyone. So when you are starting up and you want to put 10% offshore, do what feels comfortable with you at a specific given time. So if you want 30% offshore, do 30%. If you want 50% offshore, do 50%. If you want 10% offshore, do 10%. Do what feels comfortable with you and what is in line with your investment goals. So don't be constrained into this 30% only, but also, guys, be aware that if you have a retirement annuity and you are working in South Africa, 70% of your retirement annuity is already invested in the South African market. It's already domestic, so that makes more sense for you to also keep everything local. So you may look into taking some of your investment offshore, but as well, guys, you need to do something that's more comfortable with your investment strategy and your investment goal. So let's get into my top 3 offshore companies, and you'll be surprised to know that none of the top 3 are big names. They are underdogs. They're still coming up. They're still flying under the radar. No one have noticed them. So my top 3 offshore companies I'm investing into inside the Shift Global app, which you can download in your app store. The first one is called To You Inc. is a New York stock market listed company that I've been holding for almost 6 months now, and I've seen 20.81% growth into it. And this company, guys, basically is like a cloud servicing company. Cloud, not cloud. Cloud, like cloud. The cloud on the sky is a cloud servicing company, guys, that allows NGOs as well as universities, schools, and other organizations to hold and organize online or courses or classes or anything around the online teaching space, basically. And it's one of the leading one currently offering such services in the most easy to use way. And I've been holding this company, as I said, for almost 6 months now. The second company I love as well as in the New York stock market is called ChargePoint. Basically, ChargePoint, guys, is a charging company that charges electrical vehicle. It basically creates gas station for electrical vehicle. That makes sense, and one of the most leading one to do so in North America, providing charging point for electrical vehicles throughout North America. And the nice thing about them is that their charging point are universal, so it works with a lot of car brands. So your Tesla, your Toyota, your BMW, you can still charge them using charging point, if that makes sense. And I've seen 27.75% growth in this company, and I think I've been holding it for a year. Is it a year or 8 months? Between those two numbers, a year or 8 months. And the third company I love, and as well as offshore, it is called Workhouse Group. I have seen 22.7% growth in this company, guys. Basically, it manufacture trucks that use electricity. So it manufacture electrical trucks. And this company has worked with Amazon, has worked with a lot of big companies to produce electrical trucks for them. And it's a company I love the most. So those are my top 3 New York or offshore companies I love investing into, and I invest into them using the Shift Global app, basically. So guys, let me know what you think about today's episode, what your thoughts about it. And guys, I reply to every email I receive through my website, which is www.ivansambo.co.za. As well, guys, thank you so much for the love. As I said, for 9 weeks in a row, we have been sitting in the top 10 business and investment podcast on Apple Podcasts. So continue showing me love, continue showing this podcast love, continue sharing this financial education content with your families, friends, and everyone you love. And guys, forgive me for my voice today. As I said, I'm coming down with the flu, but I had to give you guys an episode because you know me, I never miss giving you guys an episode every Monday. So guys, for me, love you so much and I appreciate the support. Let's continue building that financial world. So enjoy the rest of the week. Until next week, guys.
Cheap. A dirty word, right? Well, let's think about that. Right now, you can get the cheapest Forex rate around on the Shift app. Dollars, pounds, euros, you won't find cheaper anywhere else. And with that cheap Forex, you can enjoy more of the things you travel for. Or you can take it and buy shares in the world's best companies, all on the Shift app. Or if you, like so many people out there, are investing in foreign currency, you can, cheaper than anywhere else. So if cheap gets you more of life's best things, it's not such a dirty word after all. Get the cheapest Forex rate around. Download the Shift app now. Shift operates under the FSP license of Standard Bank.